everyone, it's Miss Gante again, and you already know what time it is. It's time to use our brains and become scientists. We have been living in the world of fossils. Do you remember what type of scientist studies fossils? Great job. So scientists that study fossils are paleontologists, and paleontologists compare fossils to search for clues about what early animals were like and how our environment has changed. They are also studying the Earth's past life. So something that we might see today might have not been around millions of years ago when we're finding these fossils. So this week, we were talking about how fossils are formed. That had me kind of asking the question, do we know how fossils are formed? Think about that for a second. So let's look at our first question. Our first question says, what is the process to form a fossil? Do we know the process? We've talked about it before, but do we really know? Do we know how they're found? The second question that we're going to be asking is, how do paleontologists use fossils to know about living things that no longer exist? How are we going to use that information? So today in our experiment, we are going to be exploring fossil formation. That's what we're going to be doing today. So in a second, we're going to take a quick look at my workstation and see what materials we need for today's experiment. All right, everyone. So this is going to be one of the materials that we're going to be using today in my workstation. So we have our paper towels. We'll be using those first. Then we're just going to need just an empty water bottle. I have some science books. These are going to be mainly used as like weights, or any heavy book is good. I have our magnifying glass. I have 2 packets of Swedish fish. I have rye bread, classic white bread, and whole wheat bread. And these are going to be our materials that we are using for our experiment today. So now that we've gone over all the materials in my workstation, what do you think we're going to be doing today? Think of all the different types of bread that I have, and then really think about the Swedish fish, the candy fish. What do you think that our experiment is about to do? So take a moment right now to get out your pencil and your science journal and write down, what do you think the bread is going to be? What do you think the Swedish fish is going to act as? So right now, with the materials that I have, how do you think this experiment is going to happen? All right, you guys, and we're going to go back to those notes later. But now, it's time to activate our scientist mode. Are you ready? It's time to get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started. All right, boys and girls, so here we have our experiment. Let's get started. So let's go over our questions from the beginning. What is the process to form a fossil? We're going to talk about it today. Then we have, how do paleontologists use fossils to know about living things that no longer exist? We're going to talk about that as well. I have my materials here. I have my white bread. We're only going to be needing 1 slice. I have my wheat bread, only 1 slice. And I have my rye bread. So we're only going to be using 1 slice of each. Right now, we're also going to take out our Swedish fish, and we'll just put placing those on the table. We might not use them all. And we're also going to get 1 paper towel. So we have 1 paper towel. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to carefully pull the crust off of the bread. So now this is an important step, and it's okay if it's not perfect. We're just going to pull that crust off of the bread. So here we have our crusts that have been pulled off, and this one looks a little mangled. But it's okay, guys, because remember, as I've said before, scientists and science is not perfect. We're not always going to get it right on the first try. This is my first try. Could I go back and do it again? I could, but I'm going to try it with this. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take our piece of white bread, and this is going to represent that sandy ocean floor. So as we've experimented before with sand, so I want us to picture this bread as our sandy ocean floor, and we're gonna put it on top of our paper towel from before. So you're just gonna put it on top of the paper towel, just like that. Then you're also going to want to get one of our gummy fish, and we're going to put it on the bread, just on the bread, just like that. And what this is going to represent is our dead marine life. So our poor little fishy, he is dead. So we're going to put him in our sand, and he is done. And that's our first layer. So the next piece of bread that we're going to get is we're going to get our rye bread. So not our wheat, but our rye. That's a little bit darker. So when we look at this piece of rye bread, I want this to represent the way an ocean current deposits the sediment. So think of this as all the grains of sand and rocks that live under the ocean, and it's coming over, and it's just gonna lay right there on top of our sandy soil layer. So it sits on top, those sediments are on top of that dead marine life. Dead marine life, sediments are just swooping over, and it's coming, and it's just gonna be there. This is our bottom of the ocean, and here is our sediments that are laying over top. So next, over time, I have more little fish, and here's my school of fish. Let me get them all lining the same way. Here's my school of fish, and they're all swimming, and they're all gonna swim, and they're all landing in those sediments. Now, boys and girls, think about it, and you can pause the video. If they are landing and they're staying in that sediment, what does that mean? What do you think is happening to the marine life? So good job. Those of you that said that they're dead, they are. They have now laid on top, and now they are on that next level. And so now we're gonna add our last slice of bread. This is our wheat bread. So here we have our school of fish that were swimming. And then we have our wheat bread. Now, what does this all mean? What does this all represent? This represents the natural process that has taken place over millions of years. So here are millions of years. All right, boys and girls, so let me bring you in closer. Are you seeing these layers? Are you seeing the millions of years? So we started out with our sand layer, then we went over our sediments, and now this is just gradually, it's moving over time. So these are our various layers, and this has all happened. This doesn't happen overnight. This happens over millions of years, and as more sand and sediments get deposited to the top by wind or ocean currents, it starts building up, slowly keeping those dead marine life on the inside. So now we have this perfectly well-made model. It almost makes you want to just take a bite out of it. But fear not. Our next step, we have to wrap it in our paper towel. So now we're wrapping it up. And I'm just gonna wrap it how I would pack a sandwich. Here is our bread fossil. Our aspect that we're missing right now is pressure. We need to make sure that it really locks down our fossil. So using the materials, what material do you think I'm gonna use next? That's right, boys and girls. So now I'm taking my science books, and I'm going to use these science books as a pressure. And with this pressure, I'm going to place it on top of the bread, and this is going to stimulate that natural process of pressure at the bottom of the ocean floor. So now we're going to leave this just like this for 2 days, and we're going to see how it changes in 2 days. And you might be asking, Why 2 days? Why are we waiting 2 days to do this? The 2 days are going to symbolize those millions of years that are passing by. So millions of years, that's what we're thinking of. All right, everybody, and we're back. So it's been 1,000,000 years, 2,000,000 years, 3,000,000 years. All right, you got me. It's been 2 days. But let's look at what we have. We're excavating and we're removing the layers, and we have our fossil. So first, let's pretend that our water bottle is going to be a tool that we're going to use. So I'm just going to take an area, punch it through so that we can see the layers. All right, so now that I have it, I'm just going to squeeze it, and it's gonna just push it out. So now that I'm done with this, I'm just gonna lay that to the side. And I'm going to look at our layers. So here at the bottom, remember, we have our sand. After our sand, that middle layer, we have our sediments that rushed in through tide. And then here we have our pressure that has eroded over time. So now we're gonna go ahead and try to extract our fish. So I'm gonna bring you in to see a closer view. Let's see. Can you identify which is the mold fossil and where is the cast fossil? Good job. So if you said this is our mold, so this is our mold layer, notice the impressions of the fish. And here we have our cast. So here is our original specimen of our fish. But wait, there's still one more layer. If you remember, there's one more fish in here. So let's open it, boys and girls. So all I have done is I have simply flipped this over. And here we have our impression. And for this one, you can really see the ridges and the impression of the fish. So if I stack them all up, that is going to be how paleontologists excavate and find how the process forms a fossil. All right, so let's take some time and let's think about this. How do paleontologists use fossils to know about living things that no longer exist? Well, let me tell you. What if a fossil of a fish was found at your school? I want you to think about that. Let's say you were outside playing in the playground. All of a sudden, you see a fossil. Or you're excavating and you find a fossil. What would that tell you about the Earth long ago? Think about that. Let's write that down in our science journal. If you were at your school's playground and you found a fossil of a fish, what would that tell you about the Earth long ago? Now, if you said that it would mean that there was water and marine life long ago, you're correct. And as scientists, we have to ask these questions. We have to constantly question and wonder and see what we notice. So when we look at this model, I want you to think that this residue that was left by the gummy fish can represent things that are left, or that marine life that is left a long time ago and that has died and it has been fossilized. Now, over millions of years, these remains are pressurized and they are later excavated by paleontologists. All right, boys and girls, so you did a great job thinking like a scientist today, specifically a paleontologist, when we were excavating our fossil and looking at the various layers of our sweetest fish. So, as usual, make sure that you're writing all of your observations down in your science journal. So, I'll see you on the next one. Bye, guys.